absolutely nothing that it was commanded by Yahuah was or is actually promoted by this magisterium that became Christianity. He did not command them to do a single thing that they practiced. And that was admitted on the radio, 30-something years ago when I was listening to it, and I was awakening to this fact that a pastor was on the radio saying that nothing we do was ever commanded by Yahuah. It's all tradition. And instead, they're following pagan customs. And here's some of them. Sunday, steeples, pillars, stupas, obelisks, bells, vestments of the Mithraic priesthood. That's the Dagon mitre, the stoles, and the augury staves that they wear. You know, they have these little things that have to do with birds, you know. That's what that curled thing is that you see these Catholic bishops holding. It's actually from a pagan thing about birds, you know. Watch the birds and that'll tell us stuff. Well, how about holy water? Well, that comes from the Ganges, Eastern mysticism. The Ganges river water was considered sacred. Hindu Gnosticism is what it is. How about the Queen of Heaven? That's actually attributed to, that's in Scripture, but it's something that is not what the Catholics are calling it. But the Queen of Heaven is mentioned in Scripture. But that's the problem. Making birthday cakes for the Queen of Heaven. Putting candles on with horoscope concepts of astrology and witchcraft. And blowing out candles and making wishes to genies that rise up to the heavens. That's not coming from Scripture. We teach our children these things. How about yule logs and mistletoe, which I heard on the radio just day before yesterday. Someone was talking about the plant mistletoe being a poisonous plant, and the Druids used it for their purposes for fertility. You know, then there's beads and counting prayers, repetitive prayers, and on rosaries. Where's that in Scripture? Well, how about weeping for Tammuz, which is actually now the 40-day fast called Lent, which is a word that refers to the lengthening of the days as the spring approaches. The lengthening of days was called Lent. And ashes on your forehead. Well, Hindus were doing that long ago. It's part of that Gnosticism. Putting ashes on your forehead and putting a symbol of Tammuz on there as well. People don't know that the crux symbol is the solar item. I mean, it is the thing that all the pagans used as a symbol for their sun worship. And it was brought in during the 4th century, the late 4th century. Fertility symbols extend to trees, which are phalluses, ornaments, which are testicles, and of course tinsel, the semen. The wreath is the vagina, and the ribbon, of course, is the fresh birth canal, bleeding, I guess. Then you've got the rabbits, the eggs, and the fish, which are all fertility symbols. Statue veneration. I'm not done yet. Celibacy. Yeah, right. Like celibacy is in Scripture.
Where's that?
What?
Where's that at?
Hey,
Forget that.
How about saying magic words like, what do they call it? Hoc est corpus meum. This is my body. This is my body. What? You know. Well, aren't we his body? You know, the ones that he indwells. The object that they kneel down to in the monstrance is a round solar disc. You know, Egyptian-looking thing. You know, with a moon under it, actually. But what do they say? What's the magic words? What are the magic words? And I don't mean please. I mean, they say hocus pocus, which is derived from hoc est corpus meum. Then we have something that we can't find in Scripture called monks. Where are they found? Well, they're found in Hinduism. Nuns, same way. Popes, well, the Caesar was always the papa, the patriarch, you know. Uh, in Nazi Germany, they called him the Führer, you know, the Pope. Well, the head of the empire. Kruk symbols or solar icons from Babel's Tammuz, and it became incorporated into sun worship. The sacraments are imaginary dispensation of favors through a priesthood, indulgences for time off in a non-existent place called purgatory. We're not making much up, are we? How about venial sins as opposed to mortal sins? Well, the venial sins, you go to the purgatory, but the mortal sins, you go straight to hell. Well, they're making that stuff up. But anyway, indulgences, and the sale of indulgences is still going on, you know. And if you become a Twitter follower of the Pope, you get time off in purgatory. Mm. And a distorted version of Passover, which is expressed in a bloodless sacrifice, and we know that without the shedding of blood, there is no forgiveness of sins. But they've got this thing called a bloodless sacrifice called the Mass. And it's kind of a distortion of Passover, which is only done once a year, observed once a year, in remembrance of his death. You don't remember his death every day or every week. You only do it once a year, you know, in the proper time. Otherwise, it's witchcraft, because it's rebellion. It's something he did not order. Then you've got this thing called sunrise services. And then what's the sunrise services about? Well, they say it's about the resurrection. But in fact, it's more about Easter, which is actually the name of the Earth Mother. Easter. Anybody can look this up. It's a confusion of first fruits is what it really is, because first fruits is what Yahusha was fulfilling when he resurrected. And it wasn't at sunrise. It was actually at sunset, and he was just seen for the first time at dawn, a little before dawn. But Yahusha's resurrection fulfilled the early harvest called Bikurim. And December 25th was the original Nautilus Sol Invictus, the birth of the sun. And it was confused in the year 525 with the so-called birthday of Yahusha, who was actually born around 4 to 5 BCE during Sukkoth, or Tabernacles. It was in the fall. It was in the 7th month. And it was all these things were done to concentrate power in the teaching authority of the clergy over the nobility and the laity, which are the two other estates. You've got the clergy and the nobility and the commoners, the laity, the lay people. And they invented new dogmas all over the place, just all through time, to continue in some power play, you know, to keep control. And they were all invented out of imaginations. And not a single thread of truth remains. Everything that is done and seen is not what Yahuah ordered. It was cleansed of everything. Now, billions are following a religion of men's traditions based on pagan practices. What do you think that's going to? You think that's going to get them into any trouble with the Creator?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think so. The sign of the eternal covenant, it's called the eternal covenant, is forgotten. It's the 7th day of the week called Shabbat, the 7th day. It actually means 7. And teachers are false. Well, people that tell the truth, the teachers that are telling the truth, are still a little flock, but the broad path is well funded with a misused tithe that's intended to go to the widow, the fatherless, the foreigner, and the priesthood of Yisrael, or Israel. Not the state of Israel, though. We're not talking about the state of Israel. We're talking about Israel as anyone who's in the covenant, keeping the commandments. You know, if you're keeping these commandments, you're automatically in Israel. You enter Israel, the Commonwealth of Israel, by immersion. You know. Now, we Nazarene are of the Melchizedek priesthood, and Yahusha is our high priest. We reject the church fathers. We reject them as a teaching authority. Our teaching authority is one man, who is also the Creator, Yahusha. He's our teaching authority. And he's the one that gives us authority. Yahusha was asked by the people who have become the Talmudists, the rabbis. By what authority do you do these things? Meaning what he was saying and teaching. By what teaching authority do you do these things? That's what they were asking. And he said, well, by whose authority did Yahuah and the immerser immerse? And they kind of hesitated about it, and they stopped asking me questions.